before I start part 2 off, I need to tell you that a part of what I said in part 1 was wrong when it came to the vocalists. I said that Brett, the original vocalist, was in the first 2 albums, and then for this album he left and someone else came in. And then he left, and then someone came in to do her Halo, and then the original singer Brett came in to do the latest album, Are We Soldiers? Turns out I'm actually wrong on that. Turns out that Brett is actually on this album. So the singer in Are We Soldiers is actually the singer here, which I did think they sounded quite similar, but they did sound different as well. Now, the reason for this is because when looking at people talk about Are We Soldiers, they said that the original singer's coming back. So I took that as Brett, and I have known that people have said there are 3 singers. So without Wikipedia or anything or much to go off, I kind of just guessed, well, where the hell would this other singer be? If Brett is the original singer and they're saying the original vocalist is coming back, I definitely know Brett isn't in her Halo because I've seen music videos for that, and that guy sounds incredibly different. So I just guessed maybe it was this guy, because going to the album previous to this album, it is very, very heavy, and Brett has this really gnarly kind of voice to him. And then again, Are We Soldiers, Brett still sounds kind of different. And then this album also sounds kind of different. And though all 3 do have this similar kind of style to them, but all 3 albums, the vocalist does have this kind of different kind of take on how he presents himself for the kind of vibe what the album goes for. So I just kind of guessed it was here, but yeah, apparently not. This is Brett, and Brett also was in Are We Soldiers. And Brett actually isn't the original singer, which is where the fault kind of lied. The singer was actually the first singer they had. Did an album and a few EPs or something, but I don't know if people kind of ignore that. And then the anthology Brett did or something, but it was an anthology which was with the original singer. It gets incredibly confusing. Like, I tried looking it up through a website, going through the albums to see where anything was, but it was quite complicated. But yeah, Brett isn't the original singer. He's been with the band the longest. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. So yeah, this is Brett. So let's now get into the actual review. So we are starting off part 2 with the song Spawn. So Spawn is 5 minutes 8 seconds, so it's relatively long, but not, going into the proper big old anthemic lengths of the 8-minute mark. So for just basically making it over 5 minutes, the song does kind of suffer a more kind of straightforward pacing about it, more of a simple kind of structure. The intro verse is pretty much just kind of this mid-tempo thing. There is nothing overly kind of like a lead interlude that comes over the top. There's nothing overly aggressive about it. It's just this mid-tempo riff that kind of plays along the vibe of what the album goes for and tone-wise. The verse gets a little bit more interesting, which has Brett singing in a bit of a kind of calm, more melodic nature. The instruments with the guitars is a little kind of clean. I think there is the clean is the lead, and then I think there is a rhythm which is distorted, but it's kind of faded and pushed into the background to not overly kind of overwhelm this nature of being a bit more of a melodic, softer kind of verse, because if they had the thing up front, I think it would kind of destroy and wreck it. So he's pushed it a bit in the background. There is kind of a clean, just kind of fretting kind of string, simplistic kind of thing, but just to have everything kind of open, quite subtle. There's not really much in the way of drums, I think, but getting into the second part of the verse, things do kind of pick up. All the guitars kind of come into the gain channel stuff, and takes out the clean stuff. and then Brett starts singing in his kind of higher register that he does, and then getting into the chorus. There's nothing super, interesting about it. It's not a chorus that really stands out compared to the rest of the album. Nor does this song really, like all the previous stuff that came before it. There was complexity and there was some nice melodies and stuff. The only thing Spawn really has going for it is the fact that coming off of the simple mid-tempo intro, you get a verse which changes the pace up a little bit, and then it kind of progresses into its chorus. Then the second verse don't really repeat itself again. It kind of stays aggressive, I believe. The solo also, unfortunately, for Teramaze on this album, the solos are nowhere near as good as what there are on Her Halo as well as Are We Soldiers. Her Halo just took it to such a huge level, as well as Are We Soldiers, from this. So even though the solo is good, like there's a lot of technicality and technique about it, it's just the fact that it comes across as overly technical. There's no real kind of, emotional kind of thought put behind it. It's just this technical kind of thing that's there. It lasts a fair while, so you do get, your decent length of the solo. So there's nothing bad about it. The bridge I kind of like because it opens up a little bit more, so everything has a bit of a breath. It's not kind of clean and it's not just there. It's this openness which, with the tone they're going for of everything sounding like it's just in this isolated place, and the sound kind of just keeps going and going in this vast empty space. Opening the sound up with that kind of vibe going, I think really helps. And Brett has some really nice strain kind of notes, which I think he kind of pushes into the higher register with a bit of a strain and a little bit of a whine on it. And I like that. As the song ends as well, his voice starts kind of trailing and echoing off into the distance. So I do like how Brett kind of ends the album with that. I also like the bridge section, just with how the instruments kind of just open up, and then Brett just really is open, very clear in the bridge section, and has some great notes that he hits. But other than that, Spawn is a little bit more on the simplistic side of things. It's still definitely a great song. Solo, again, quite technical, but a little kind of bland in the kind of emotion department, as well as being a bit kind of thoughtful and well kind of produced and laid out. It just kind of goes with the technicality. So let's get into the next song, which is Punishment by Design. So thankfully, Punishment by Design kind of brings things back to something that is really, really good and well laid out. So this track is 5 minutes 27 seconds. The intro is just kind of really aggressive, like there's some blistering technical moments, and it's just really, really aggressive. When it gets into the verse, you have a rhythm guitar which is just kind of in the background with Brett in the foreground just singing. And then eventually the rest of the band kind of come in just to kind of fill that kind of impactful sound out. He's got a fair bit of aggression to it through the verse with a few open bit parts, and what I kind of really like about this song is just the different kind of emotions and layers that they kind of put into this song Punishment by Design. So as I say, the intro is very, very aggressive and technical and has these really sharp, aggressive, fast moments. And then the verse, it takes that little bit of a break, but it doesn't lose that aggression as Brett comes in. And then the band builds back up to make it thick and aggressive sounding again. But then even still through the verse, there's some open parts where Brett just kind of gets this little bit of this lightness about him, but it's got this real kind of creepy, dark tone to it, even though it's a bit lighter in sound. But when it hits the chorus really opens it up, and it just kind of sounds a little bit more uplifting, a little bit brighter. Like there's a light kind of shining through this kind of darkness that this song kind of lays out for you. But even still, interwoven into the chorus, there are sections where the band and the vocalist still brings it into this really creepy part. So as the chorus starts, it's open, it's bright, and then all of a sudden it gets this really creepy, sinister part, and then again just brings it back out into this real light, uplifting element. And then coming out of the chorus, he just goes really aggressive. The vocalist has a bit of this gnarliness into his voice and everything. And then things kind of go the same way until you get to the bridge section, which this song doesn't actually have a solo. I know, disappointing, but I think the song has just got so many great layers to it. The vocalist has so many different spans of emotions and techniques, as well as the bands, that I don't really mind. And obviously the rest of the album has solos and stuff, so I don't find it too distracting. But there is a lead interlude as it enters the bridge section, which is just this kind of uplifting, cheerful kind of interlude. There's not much about it. It's not, you know, bright and overly musical. It's just a simple kind of bright guitar play that then leads you into the bridge. And as it starts leading in, before it even hits, you know, it's kind of darkening the effect. And then when the bridge actually comes in, it's this really sinister kind of sound, just with the vocalist and the band. It's not overly dark and it's not bright. It's just got this really sinister, creepy vibe to it as it kind of goes along. And then it goes back into the kind of verse kind of area, and there's some gnarly, real kind of growled kind of stuff from Brett. And then again with the chorus, he goes really bright and open. And then the sections in the chorus where it goes a little sinister, it kind of sounds like there's some fear within them. So these sections where Brett is so open and clear voiced, and then within the exact same chorus he goes into this really scared sounding sung vocal style, and it just sounds like he's just kind of creeped out by something and he's just afraid. And then he just immediately erupts into this just real bright and clear energy again. And then the song ends on the bridge section where it just kind of goes to this really kind of creepy, haunting sound again. So again, I just think, even without the solo, I like the amount of different layers, the aggressive, fast-paced nature of the intro, and the aggression of the verses, but then with a little bit of open elements to them, the chorus really being open and brighter, but then has these really kind of scared elements to them. The bridge section before it starts, it seems quite nice and uplifting, but then it gets into this really sinister sound, and it just shows all this emotion that Brett brings in, because I can get real scary aggression from him. I can get these great open bright elements from him. I can get fear out of his voice where it just sounds like the guy's terrified, and all sorts of things, and melodies and highs and aggression. He has a massive range, as well as the band being able to kind of pull that off as well. So I do really kind of enjoy this song. So let's get into the next track, which is Dust of Martyrs. So Dust of Martyrs is 5 minutes 16 seconds, and it kind of is just like this kind of previous song. You've kind of got a mid-tempo intro. When the verse comes in, you've got a bit of kind of melody with the lead guitar and the drums doing some thunderous pounds every now and then, along with the rhythm guitar just kind of bringing that more of the kind of the bulk and the bass to the sound, while the lead guitar gives you a bit more of this open melody sound, along with Brett just having this clear voice. And then as it progresses, you get different kind of moods. So there's some really kind of gnarly vocals from Brett near the second portion of the verse, where it just gets quite aggressive and menacing in sound. The chorus, it goes for being open, just like the previous song, so we've had some kind of interwoven plays. Not as much as the previous song, which had a lot of different kind of things going on. This is pretty much it for Dust of Martyrs. The only thing that kind of brings this out a little bit more is there is a solo that comes after the chorus. Now this solo, again, it's not as good as Her Halo or Are We Soldiers, that had technical stuff, melodic stuff, catchy stuff. This one again kind of goes for technicality, but it does have like a melody kind of interwoven into the technical aspects. So instead of it just being a blurt out of just technical prowess, it is a musical showmanship of technicality, which does really kind of help, but it still isn't, you know, fantastic because we're not getting a lot of range solo-wise. We haven't really had something that is just really kind of musical and really kind of beautiful. It is mostly just a lot of the same kind of solo, which is different types of speed and technicality, and then maybe some different kind of effects, and maybe some of them will have a bit more of this melody interwoven into them, and some others just sound a little bit too dry and cut for my taste. So that is kind of unfortunate. The song does kind of end with kind of solo again. It is basically how the solo starts, but it's cut up to be shorter at the end of the song. So it kind of leaves the last thought of the song on this nice sounding lead that is more in the line of kind of bends and everything, and a bit kind of more of a melody to it. So that's fine until it kind of gets into its technical part, so we just kind of take some more kind of musical aspects to end on. But that is pretty much the song. Mid-tempo kind of intro, you got some gnarly vocals in there, the chorus is kind of a bit more open in scope. You do have a solo which lasts a little while, it's a decent length. It does have melody interwoven into its technical prowess as well as speed, but it is still kind of that type of solo, so it is a little kind of irritating that it doesn't have a bit more kind of versatility going on, which is a little it's a little disappointing. But overall, again, you've got some great vocals. There is still a really well done solo which has a great skill, and I like the fact that it does kind of end on that little bit of the lead as well. And as I said, the song does go through a different kind of emotional takes. There's some open parts, there's some more kind of aggressive, gnarly parts, and then some more just kind of mid-tempo clear stuff. And again, it is 5 minutes, so you do get a nice long verses. They're not kind of short and some big open choruses. It's not just really short verses and really short choruses that repeat same lines. So even though it's not as good as the previous, there is still some stuff to like. So let's get into the next song, which is the Divulgent Act. So the Divulgent Act is 6 minutes 5 seconds. I also believe this is actually kind of a bonus track. It's maybe one of the others, but I think it's this one. Now, it's kind of weird that it's a bonus here, seeing that there's another 4 odd tracks after this. It's a weird place to put a bonus, which is usually at the end of an album. But I believe, I could be wrong, I think if you get MP3, you lose this track. If you get the physical album, then I think you get this track. I could be completely wrong, but there are buys where you will miss this track, and then there are places where you can also get this track. So, how good is the track then? It is actually pretty damn good. Like, the intro, it's got this mid-tempo-ness about it, but it has this kind of nice open melody about it, so it just kind of sounds nice, and it's kind of open, it's kind of a little relaxed in nature, and it's quite pleasing to the ear as well. So I kind of really kind of like the intro, just the fact that it actually just has this musical element to it, so it actually just sounds a lot more pleasing and nice, instead of just being this chugged along kind of rhythm thing that just is void of kind of any kind of emotion or anything much to it. As you get into the verse, things kind of get quite simple, and I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just that is what happens. It does go quite simple. You get breath, you're singing by yourself. He again has that kind of effect on his voice, which just makes it sound like he's just in this empty void of nothingness. His voice kind of trails into this constant distance and never seems to end. And musically, there's again not really much going on. You kind of got these kind of clean guitars that kind of just come in and just fret a few things here and there, just to kind of keep you know, an instrument going, so it's not just Brett completely isolated to himself. There's no real drums, but again, as the verse goes, the typical thing is the song will progress and evolve, and again, that is kind of what happens here. The drums start coming in, Brett's voice kind of goes a little bit more kind of nicer, kind of lingers on his notes a bit more, and kind of do some interesting things with it, just to add it a a bit more of a musical nature. Instead of just kind of holding and have it kind of go, he'll kind of hold it in one kind of pitch and then he'll kind of move it to a different area, so it has a bit of a flow through it. Going into the chorus, it opens up a little bit, and then you kind of have your lead and stuff going on. The solo for this song, you get two. You have the first one, which is just a portion of really fast, and then there's a little bit of a break. There is a little kind of interlude just to break off from that little chunk of just blitz. And then he'll have this little interlude, and then he'll go on to pure blitz, and then he'll have a little interlude that will take you into your next part of the bridge. So yeah, it's just two chunks of just kind of technical speed broken up with some kind of simple interlude. It's again, it technical. It's you have to, you know, teach yourself how to do it. It's not going to be easy, so yes, it's technical. It is going to be tricky to do, but is it really thought-provoking? Does it kind of seem that the guy had to kind of sit down and really think of something that would move someone? I don't think so. So unfortunate. It does have its elements, granted, but I don't think it is a masterfully crafted solo. Going on about the bridge section, the bridge section has some nice openness about it. Brett has some quite high notes in there, and it's not power metal, you know, blitz high fucking notes which might make you bloody bleed. And it's just these really kind of nice light high notes that he achieves, which is great to hear his range do that. The end of the song is where you get your other solo. This is definitely better because there is actually a melody to it, and then Brett has them kind of high notes that he did in the bridge section, which he sings at times over the closing solo of this song, which I really think helps because it's in this musical, really nice sounding kind of solo mixed in with Brett's kind of high, clear vocals, which I think also is very beautiful. So you've got this melodic, beautiful solo at the end mixed in with the voice and everything, and it just has this kind of real great lift at the end of the song of just this amazing sounds and everything, and I really think it ends the song well. So yeah, for a bonus track it is actually pretty damn good. So let's get on to the title track of the album, Esoteric Symbolism. I've butchered that, haven't I? So for the title track, this is actually a really good track, which is great. It's the bloody title track, you kind of expect it. It's 7 minutes 13 seconds, so it is quite a hefty track. But there is a fair bit to this track, which is why it is so good. You have a lead interlude in this track, which comes across very bluesy. And that is fantastic. You have this blue-sounding lead interlude that is in this track, which is not doing this intensity or just something that is metal-based. No, it's this kind of blues rock kind of interlude, and it just gives this great musicality, something unique and different. It's really pleasant, it's musical, and it's amazing. Even with the verse and the chorus. The verse is this really kind of open sound with Brett again kind of just singing in this like real vast empty kind of space. It's like he's isolated and alone. And it's got that really eerie feel about it because of that. And then with the instruments underneath, you don't really have anything kind of clean or anything. It's just kind of going along at this kind of pace with kind of Brett just taking this isolated feel. And then it goes into the chorus, but you won't really kind of expect it. It just kind of seems it's just taking the verse to the next level where everything kind of opens out, and then Brett kind of goes into some of these real kind of held higher notes, which sound fantastic. And then it comes back down into the verse, and it just kind of sounds probably like a very long verse. Actually no, it's just kind of verse chorus, but it just kind of leads its way into the chorus so naturally that I didn't actually notice it, and then I kind of thought, oh, have they actually forgotten about the chorus? And I thought, oh wait a minute, I think that actually was the chorus. So I had to rewind to actually figure out have I missed something, which I kind of did, because it kind of just ties in so well, and it just kind of seems to the song just keeps progressing instead of actually having all these individual sections so many bands have. You know, you've got your intro section, then you have your verse section, then you have your chorus section. This song kind of sounds like it's just one big piece, which is fantastic, and that is a good way to go about this song instead of following a simplistic formula. Even though it is verse and chorus, I just kind of prefer the fact that it just kind of take that kind of typical feel out of it, even though it is still, the formula is still kind of there, if you know what I mean. The actual lead solo, again, it does go for the technical thing, it hasn't really changed it up. But the good thing about it is it does have this kind of excitement and kind of bounce about it, so it's got this kind of musical thing. It's not melodic or anything, it's just a kind of real kind of musical, bright sounding speed to it. It's a bit more well thought out and structured than just kind of doing this kind of, here's a chunk of speed and then I'll give a break and a chunk of speed and then be done. No, it's kind of well thought out. It has this kind of cheerful kind of excitement and bounce about it, but then it still shows that technicality about it. But yeah, again, the song has some great highs from Brett, and then it has that blues thing interlude. It has one of the better solos. It has a part in the song where things go very, very basic, where Brett is kind of just by himself, and then it's just this really empty kind of nearly acoustic guitar that's under him, and everything is just so subtle and quiet in sound for the nearer end portion of the song, and then it kicks back into the chorus where Brett has some kind of higher notes and everything. So I just think it's just a better song that just has more of a better flow about it than being individually sectioned into their, you know, categories. It kind of has more of a natural flow to it. I like the blues section. I like Brett's voice, especially with the vibe that this album has, that real isolation kind of feel about it. With the voice just sounding like it just trails and everything. I just think the effect on Brett's voice is amazing. Plus, with the amount of range Brett has and the amount of different kind of emotions he can put through into his voice, he's a phenomenal vocalist. And then the band obviously plays along well with Brett and everything. The lead stuff in this song is of a better nature, so it's a great song. So let's get into the next track, which is Order Out of Chaos. So Order Out of Chaos is 7 minutes 17 seconds, so still again another pretty lengthy song, and this is a fantastic track. I really like this one because I just get something different. It's still got the vibe and the tone of the album, but it's just, the band just has so many different ranges that they can do with this, so it's just something new but maintains the sound and signature that the album has. So by that I basically mean that the intro kind of goes on for pretty much around a minute with this kind of person speaking over an intercom. I don't know what the fuck they're saying, I don't really care. But it's just got that thing going on, and then around a minute the riff changes. And it's got this really kind of creepy riff going about it, and then there's Brett comes in with his vocals. He's got some kind of deep, kind of sinister voice to him, and he's just saying it, and then after he says this short little portion of around 3-second part, his voice just really just opens, and it's got this real immense strain on it. I don't know how he can achieve it, because I don't even know how the hell to even begin to mimic it. I think if I did, my voice would blow, because it just sounds like there's just a fuck ton of strain, and it's just got a lot of power to it as well. And then it goes into more of a natural kind of voice, but then again it gets these creepy riffs, and then it's just got this Brett again just with this emotion of just something quite sinister and menacing into this real strange creepy thing going on. And that's the way the song is, like Order Out of Chaos. The music does kind of give you that feeling of this is something quite dark, quite vicious and pretty sinister. Something that just kind of sounds like bad. And as I say, that riff sounds aggressive, Brett can sound aggressive, and then that strange stuff just like sounds like someone's just in agony and pain. Like, it's just, I love the fact that Brett has so many kind of ranges and different kind of voices on him, and the fact that he can portray emotion as well. It's phenomenal, this guy's voice, it really is. Especially seeing that the album previous to this, and the guy just is so much more aggressive. And then in the album Are We Soldiers, he has a whole different kind of range of voice. And there's one song near the end of the album, I forgot what it's called, but there's just a section which it doesn't even sound like him because it's just so different. The guy just has unbelievable range and just sounds like 1,000 different people, and then all of them have a great voice. It is amazing, this guy. In the middle of the song though, everything actually does kind of lighten up, so Brett's voice gets a lot more kind of clear and has a lot more kind of power behind it. So it doesn't just kind of stay with this one kind of staple thing, it does kind of branch out a little bit. And then the solo in it. Thank God the solo actually is melodic. It is a slower solo that doesn't use technical prowess to just basically show, yes, I am that great. It's slow, it has melody. It's, again, nowhere close to the levels of how brilliant the solos are of Her Halo, as well as the album Are We Soldiers. It is still a little bit basic. It doesn't have all them different ranges and flows and absolute beauty of Her Halo solos, which really had some amazing, beautiful solos in that. It does kind of sound quite similar. It doesn't go as many places, but it is open and it is really a breath of fresh air, and it really does help, and it stands out, and it's great because of it. And it trails off and then it goes kind of bluesy. It has some pauses and then it'll just come and do a little bit of something, which is a blues technique. And again, I really like that. So yeah, I love the fact that there's a different type of solo. I love the range Brett is showing me, and just the vibe and tone and emotional delivery that the song puts off, I think is great, because some songs, again, they don't even have a vibe or a tone to them, and they will just play with no emotion being put behind it. These people want you to kind of feel what the song's going for, and it sounds like they are actually feeling what they're doing. And it's great because it's going for something quite dark and sinister, and it feels like the band actually are quite dark and sinister while performing it, which I think is quite remarkable, personally. Let's get into the next one, which is Darkest Days of Symphony. So this is the last track on the album, and it is pretty much dead on 8 minutes. It's 7 minutes 59, so you may as well just call it 8 minutes. So, In Vitro, it's incredible. It's an incredible song. Starting off, you got, kind of speaking, that intercom thing going on, and then after that's finished, obviously the band's kind of behind them doing stuff. But when that kind of ends, it doesn't take too long to get into, it's just a few seconds. And then Brett comes in and he's just so clear, so kind of open. There's no kind of, overuse of effects going on. He's not trying to put on a persona, it's just clear, it's open, he's using power. And then the band, it's not kind of running alongside of him, they are there and present, but it's just like Brett is kind of the focus element at this point. And again, I do think the majority of the song is a great portrayal of how great Brett is as a vocalist. The kind of clear, the power of his voice. There's some elements which they do use effects in order to pull it off again, but nevertheless it does sound amazing, which is the simple kind of he's not even saying words, I don't think, it's just him going and then it has an effect on it to just kind of make it so kind of light and airy kind of around it, and it just has this great it's just this great sounding effect along with it just and the band is just kind of quite open and just this isolated kind of sound again to go with it. And the solo is yet again, thank the Lord, melodic. There's melody to it, there's some technical aspects to it. As it kind of ends, it does have a bit of the kind of blues style of trail off at the end. Getting into the later part of the stuff with Brett, they do have clean areas in the song again where Brett goes clean and the band goes clean. But then when they start doing the again with Brett, the lead guitar also kind of does it, so it's under Brett's voice, so it kind of starts lifting that up. And then near the end of the song, that is kind of a thing with the lead guitar. The lead guitar always seems to be present. It's not doing lead interludes, it's not doing lead solos really ever. It is basically just always having this kind of lead that progresses constantly through the latter part of the song, along with the rest of the band as well as Brett singing. And then the lead will just kind of do this kind of lead tone of what the rhythm's doing, or it'll do a lead tone in the style of Brett's singing style. And it just kind of just gives it this much more lift and musicality and scope and size to it. And it's great. I don't know why bands don't really do this more often, when they always have the lead come through, which just lifts the song up hugely and just makes it anthemic, and it has this great musicality about it because it is a lead tone. It is doing something more musical than just the chord rhythm stuff. The reason why I love Synesthegate so much, because he's usually constantly faffing around the place in all the fucking songs, doing the leads like a child in a candy store who's just absolutely drugged up on acid or something. That is my definition of Synesthegates. A kid on acid who is in fucking Disneyland or something, that is Synesthegates all over his songs. I think more guitarists should kind of do that, in my opinion. That is kind of it for the album. You have a ton of songs. It is a pretty lengthy album. It has a unique tone signature to it of this, as I say, isolated kind of sound, where all the sounds kind of sound like they have this echo and vastness that surrounds them. And again, because of it, they write to use this element that they have. It's not the typical music. They write to make an emphasis on the vibe that they've got going for them. They use the tone that they have for their benefit, and it's great because they get such a wide range of different types of songs, like Bodies of Betrayal, Parallels to Reality. They use the vibe and they go places with it. Again, with Punishment by Design, Darkest Days of Symphony, In Vitro, they use this technique and tone and vibe to create all these massively created songs that are very unique and stand out from other bands that are out there, there's millions of them. So it's fantastic, it's a unique listen, and I love it for that. As I say, all seeing the intro track, it is a pretty lengthy intro, but it does have lead in it, so it depends on your personal preferences. You think it's not good enough, or if you do, personally I think it's good enough. Line of Symmetry is kind of got the kind of same thing as In Her Halo's kind of intro. It starts soft and then it kind of builds. In Her Halo did it a damn sight better. But I don't think Line of Symmetry really incorporated the tone of this album. Transhumanist is the easiest track to get into. It is just this really fun, upbeat, easily enjoyable song. Bodies of Betrayal, as I said in part 1, I think is where the song comes into its unique nature of what this album is, and then it kind of follows on from that. The track Spawn, I do think, is a little kind of simplistic and kind of drops the ball a little, but then everything else I think is just phenomenal. As I say, the solos are not as good, but this album did come before that, so I've seen that the guitarist actually does grow and progress. He doesn't just stay the same. He doesn't say this is good enough. He doesn't go, well, now my band's gotten a little successful, I'm just going to stop caring now because everyone will just like what I like. He keeps challenging himself, and he has done better in Her Halo, and yet again in Are We Soldiers, although it's kind of hard to say, like Halo had some amazing solos, but so did Are We Soldiers. And they keep changing their style of look. Like the album before this doesn't sound anything fucking like this. The album after this doesn't sound anything like this. And then Are We Soldiers doesn't sound anything like all the others. Every album stands out on its own. They are all unique. And I think that shows great musicianship. The fact that they can come out and write something vastly different, and then around what they're doing in the tone of the album, they can masterfully create music to fit that tone instead of being lost and confused because it's now not the norm for them. They always try something new and they always master it. Some bands will have a certain style and they will never be able to do anything for as far as their career goes, like bands like Disturbed. They have a signature sound and they cannot differentiate away from it. This band are talented musicians who can come up with these new ideas and then write an album that is all about this, and no song sounds the same. They're all different and all incorporate this new thing that the band have not done previously. And they seem to just do it with ease. It's like they've been doing this style for years. It is a fantastic band. The album is fantastic. Now, as I say, it's not as good as her Halo, and I also don't think it's as good as Are We Soldiers, for the simple reasons of this track is 7 minutes 34 seconds, so again a pretty lengthy track, and I really like this. It has an amazing sounding riff in this track, probably my favourite riff of the album. There is a problem with it which we will get into later. But starting off, it's not heavy, this track. It starts soft. There is some lead clean guitar fingerpick probably, maybe, leads in this intro, so everything's clean, sounds nice, it's melodic. You got your nicely done finger-picked lead interlude parts. They're in the intro, and then Brett comes in, everything's just quiet and it's kind of simple, and then eventually it kind of just blows into the heavy part. So I do kind of like that it just kind of has this softer element and then it changes into a whole different category, a whole different element. I really like that because it's two different complete contrasts of each other, these two varieties of melodic then to heavy. And it's this part which then has this riff, and then Brett sings over it really well with a real sharp ferocity about it, and then the riff is just, it sounds incredible, but the problem is I don't think it's theirs. I think, I could be wrong, if I am, then these guys have written a fucking awesome riff, because I love this riff, but I'm getting Zakk Wylde, and I think it's Ozzy Osbourne. I have no idea what the hell the song is, but I just feel like I have heard this before, and I think it was in Ozzy. A band definitely around that era. It's definitely an old school band, and I think it's Ozzy, and I think the guitarist is Zakk Wylde. I really want someone to hear this and then go and bloody find it for me, because I really want to know if I'm not alone in this. I seriously think that this is basically being kind of ripped from somewhere. If so, I don't overly mind, just because it just sounds phenomenal. I know some people will, so I have gone out and said it because I think I should. But nevertheless, it's a fantastic bloody riff, and Brett really works well with it. He just sounds ferocious with it, and I love it. And then coming off of it, he opens up, he goes into more kind of held notes and saws and everything. And then he comes back into this riff that definitely has this real snap and ferocity about it, along with Brett doing the exact same thing with his voice, because he just has so much range and can just kind of fit in wherever the hell is needed into any kind of music, it seems. He can just easily squeeze in. He just has so many different emotions to his delivery and so many different voices to him. He is, I'm just repeating myself now, but the guy's bloody insane. He's incredible. The solo of this, again, it's going for a melodic solo, thank the heavens. It has a technical element in it, so as for the previous song, it was just kind of melodic. This one has melody, but it also has some technical aspects, and then it does kind of trail off again. Again, it's not on the levels of the albums to come later, but I do kind of appreciate that this just has a difference about it. And then it goes into its softer elements, and then it goes back into your ferocious stuff again. At the end of the song, they have some pretty intense, aggressive, fast riffs. along with Brett singing and everything, so they do kind of end it on something quite kind of big and ferocious. But yeah, Darkest Days of Symphony starts soft and melodic. It has some nice kind of lead interlude at the start. The explosive kind of heavy part with that riff just sounds so intimidating, and it's so great. The voice as well, with all the different kind of stages of the melodic elements, and then with that riff, and then the more open part, and then the softer part, and then near the end where he has to kind of, you know, get kind of brighter on top of all the ferocity that's going underneath near the end of the song. And then again, a solo which is not just technical, it actually has melody and a technical aspect to it, and it's just a bit more well thought out. Fantastic track, but it is unfortunate that I do think they have took this riff from, as I say, I think Ozzy Osbourne. But again, I could be wrong, and I hope I am, because then the guys have just really written up an unbelievable riff. But we'll see. I'll see what guys say. That's if anyone tries talking to me and actually looks into it for me, because I'm too lazy to, and I wouldn't even know where to begin, because I don't listen to old school stuff. I have done, but I don't go out my way and listen to it constantly, so I'm not as engaged as to where I would look for that. So hopefully someone can do that for me. So the last track now, In Vitro. Again, I probably butchered the crap out of that. And Halo had better solos. Are We Soldiers had better solos as well as more solos in this album. So same with Halo, there was just more solos in this. The solos were better. There was sometimes 2 or 3 solos in a song, unlike this album. I think they understood approaching music better, like Are We Soldiers. I think took the style of that kind of 70s synth wave thing and did it better, and there was a lot more variation and understanding with it. This album, as I kind of explained, I think they fall over a little bit. Line of Symmetry doesn't seem to fit. Transhumanist seems a little bit simplistic and hasn't used the vibe again. Spawn, I also think, lost it, but then the rest of the stuff just uses this tone they have and then just really go with it and produced amazing tracks. So, yeah, again, even though it's fantastic, it doesn't live up to her Halo, which definitely had better solos. So did Are We Soldiers. They had more of them, even within the one song. I think they just knew the songs better and were better writers. But it doesn't take away that this album is fantastic. And giving it a score, her Halo I scored not as well as I should have done, just because it was a very mature album and I was too much of a dumb retard to really get into that, because it was just so bloody mature. It took a hell of a lot of listens for me to really appreciate what that was. And so I didn't score that as high. I think it was 8 something, and then Are We Soldiers is 8.5. So because of that, I can't really say this album is not as good as that and then rate it the same. So this is an 8. It's a great album, but as I say, Spawn is a little Transhumanist, even though I really do enjoy it. It is like some kind of real up-tempo simplistic thing which anyone could really get into. Line of Symmetry I don't really think fits the tone of the album personally, but then the rest of it really works. The solos again gets marks off just because there is a lot of just kind of technicality stuff. They're quite short and seem a bit void of like being really creative and the guy who really knows his stuff behind. So yeah, 8 out of 10. It's a great album, and they've only done better from here. The band never stay the same. They always try something new, and the band have definitely progressed from album to album. They constantly grow and don't just kind of go, we'll just keep it here. They always try and outperform themselves, and I think that is brilliant. I'm glad that they do that, and I'm glad that they always do something new. And the fact that they, whatever new thing they do, they seem to be masters of it immediately, and it doesn't seem to faze them. So that is it for this album. I'll see you in the next video, whenever the hell that is. Until then, see you guys later.